Hey y'all, this is Marley K. Hope y'all are well. Got a subject that I want to talk to you about today. Me and my best friend were having a conversation, and without going into a whole bunch of detail, um, but I will share some personal experiences. This is a discussion about how women lie about who their children's fathers are and how those things end up impacting so many other people and how we don't have these conversations, and also how we just casually just be like, oh well, too bad, so sad, like without thinking about the implications from a natural, even from a biblical or a familial perspective. The dynamics are just not discussed enough, and I know that this happens amongst every group, every group. There's nobody in the world who has not experienced this. No particular group, but I want to talk about it from an African American or from the African diaspora perspective, because I know in the Caribbean it is a huge issue. In Jamaica, like, they've made it mandatory where if you have a baby, men have to have fraternity tests because the women lie about the baby's daddies. They pick these men that they believe come from good families or are providers, or whatever the rationale is, and they assign their child a daddy based on their feelings and not on their sexual activity. So it's problematic. And the scenario that I want to share with you is that one of my friends' nephews was going with this girl, and they're young, and the girl was sleeping with the neighbor's son, who was around their age. Now, they all met when they lived close together, but they moved away, and I'm assuming the relationship started when they lived as next door neighbors. But as the couple moved, the relationship continued, and they had a outside relationship. None of these people are married. They had an outside relationship, and a child was conceived. And so eventually, my friend's nephew and this girl broke up, and the neighbor's son got with the girl, and they're still together. So this girl was going with two men, but she was, of course, saying that she was not sleeping with the person that she was living with. She was only sleeping with the neighbor's son. And so this child was conceived. And so grandma, I know grandma. So grandma confided in me recently that she did not think that this child that was conceived is her grandbaby. She has at least three grandchildren, for all from her son. She has a son and a daughter, and her daughter doesn't have any children. So of course, with men, it's always mama's baby, papa's maybe. So if you are a boy mom, or you have sons, you understand what that means. I understand what that means. So, there's something different about when a child is conceived by a man, because you have to trust the word of the woman, and you have to trust that your son is on the up and up and understands what time it is, isn't trying to pull one over on you. And even if he is, hopefully you have a relationship where you can be honest and be like, son, I don't know about this one. I don't see nobody, I don't see no toes, no fingers, no eyes, something. I'm looking for something, son, looking for something. Um, I, I mean, anyway, let me finish telling you the story. So the grandmother shared with me a few weeks ago that she did not believe that the child was hers. So, and she showed me pictures of the child, and I was like, because I know the child looks like the girl's boyfriend, living boyfriend. the young lady's home. I'm gonna say girl. And at the time, this young lady did not have any children, but her boyfriend had 3 children, and he had full custody of the children. So she was living with him and helping him take care of his children, but he was cheating, and so I guess this was her get back at him. Well, in the process, she ended up getting pregnant, and so instead of her saying, I'm sleeping with 2 men, I don't know who my baby daddy is," she decided to pick a daddy. That's the best way I'm gonna say it. Because if you have an unprotected sex with more than one man, you know your child could, you know, have anybody could be that child's father, unless you know that the timing is such that it could be impossible. So anyway, I was like, yeah, I see the resemblance of the living boyfriend at the time. And so a couple of weeks, well, recently, the grandma, the little baby was over at the grandma's house, we're going to say alleged grandmother's house. And so alleged grandma came over with the little baby and showed the baby to the uh, prospective auntie. And so the prospective auntie was offended because, in her uh, opinion, the alleged father has accepted responsibility for the child, and so all should be well. And so we started having this dialogue, and then this alleged auntie is also my friend, and so I'm saying, she felt away because grandma was like, "This ain't my baby. This y'all's. Y'all need to get it. I want to love mine. If this is y'all's, then y'all should know and accept responsibility." And she was just kind of like, "Well, he's claimed the child, and so the child is his." And I'm like, what world do y'all live in that y'all just casually be blaming folks for babies and thinking that there are going to be no long-term repercussions? Like, hiding it is a good thing. And so my friend was like, "Well, he accepted responsibility." I said, "Well, okay, well, maybe he accepted responsibility, but it's not the truth and it's not right." And I said, eventually, this child is going to grow up. And if that's not the child's father, this child will start looking like y'all's family. This child will start acting like, because the DNA is from that child's father. If that is the real father, her nephew, I said, that child's gonna start acting like that man in your family, whatever traits that child has. I said, and then that child's gonna probably start being mistreated, or it will always be mistreated. I said, the lady is telling you now she does not think that this child is hers, so she's letting you know, I can't speak to how she would treat that child, but she already believes in her spirit it is not hers. So there's something there, like she's concerned and she's not wanting to take responsibility for a person that's not in her family, which I respect. And to some extent, I feel the same way. It's different when you have a man who decides to date a woman who has children, and those children are already here, or even a woman who's already pregnant, and he says, "I know this is not my baby. I'm gonna let everybody know that I'm gonna accept responsibility for this child. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna put my name on the birth certificate. Yada yada yada." Cool. We already know. Ain't no secrets. We're gonna love that child regardless. You've made that decision. I don't have no choice but to be grandma because you done dragged me into it. But this grandma is like, "I am not participating in this foolery. I don't want nothing to do with this. I want y'all to know that this is not mine. This is your child." And so my friend was like really upset, and she did not see the problem with it because her family has done that and they think it's cool. People have women in this family, because they have a lot of men in their family. They have been blamed for children. These men have helped care for these children. These children have been a part of the family. Some of the sisters or grandmamas have helped raise these children, only to find out later through DNA test, blood testing, that the child was not theirs. And so it was devastating. But then by that time, the child was, in high school. And it was just really traumatic for the father. It was traumatic, the alleged father. It was traumatic for the family. It was embarrassing. And, then you start looking around, this child don't look nothing like the rest of the family. And so, it's just really confusing and humiliating. And it's disrespectful to everybody involved. It's disrespectful of the grandparents' time. It's disrespectful of folks' money and effort. All because the woman wanted to be a hoe and sleep with multiple men and have unprotected sex. And I'm going to just say it. And I'm going to explain to you why. But I think it's unfair that women know that those children don't belong to these men. They just pick children's daddies. And then the rest of the family got to fall in line and accept the lie until you can't lie anymore because DNA don't lie. So for me personally, and I've shared this story before, my mom did this to my dad. I'm the oldest of three. And my sister, who is the youngest, was conceived outside of the marriage. My parents were married. My parents lived together. And I know, now I can't speak to whether my daddy was out there tipping in the streets because my parents were young when they had me. I think my parents got married right out of high school, and probably by the time my dad was 21, I was born. So my brother came probably a year and a half after me. And then, it's a couple of years later, my sister came along. But I remember my mother cheating on my dad. I've never seen my dad cheat on my mom. All I have is like stories that my mom would tell, but I ain't never seen my dad do nothing. I've seen my mom do stuff because my mom took us with her. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She didn't have to work. My daddy was a provider. He had us in a house. He worked 2 jobs. He used to get off of third shift, walk me to school, come pick me up from school. And I remember this. I was in kindergarten, first grade. I'm 51. So I'm just telling you the fond memories that I had. And I had everything. I had my own bedroom. I had a piano. We had floor model TVs in the 70s. We had a big house, and I had a big wheel. I would ride all through the house on my little big wheel. Y'all remember those Hot Wheels? It wasn't nothing that my daddy didn't have for me. I was the only girl, so I was spoiled. And my mom cut out on my dad, got pregnant. And at the time, I didn't know all this until much later. But when my sister was born, she didn't look like me and my brother. And we differ. My brother is very dark skinned, like my grandmother and my dad's brother. I'm lighter complexion, like my dad and some of his sisters and my mom. So we have a lot of different skin tones in our family, but you could see the resemblance in my dad's family. He got strong genes. My sister didn't look like any of us. Her hair wasn't like us. I got Kunta Kinte, Back to Africa, the 4 C D and F G textured hair. So, and my hair was like my aunt's and my dad's and my grandma. Yeah, I'm I am who I am. And my brother, same way. He had a different texture hair, but it was like my grandma's and my uncle's. My sister didn't look nothing like us. She was light skinned. She was half white, a Cherokee or Indian or something. Her hair was different. And so when she was born, my dad told me eventually that, he was like, this ain't my baby. I don't know who baby this is. And he said the doctor told him that wasn't his child. And my mom just argued with him. So my dad um, because they were married by law in South Carolina, he was required to accept responsibility. His name had to go on a birth certificate. So eventually, my mom and dad split up because my mom decided she was going to go be with her lover. And my dad ended up having to pay child support for all 3 kids. And my mom, she split up from my dad. He paid child support. And she ended up, a couple of years later, marrying my stepdad, which was my sister's father. We didn't know any of this until visitation started to be a problem. And apparently, I didn't know this. My dad's mom and his sisters knew that my sister was not his child. And so my mom would not let my sister go when we did visitation. She would send me and my brother, but not my sister. We didn't know why. We were young children. And then one day when I was in middle school, she sat us down and she told us that my sister was not my dad's, and that I couldn't tell anybody. And that's why she never went with us, because my dad would ask me, well, why your sister not coming? And I was like, I don't know. And at the time I didn't know. She just would say, your sister's not going. And I'll be like, well, why? You know? And then it put us in a bad situation, the children, because we would have to explain to my dad that my sister wasn't coming. Again, we didn't know why. They knew why, but we didn't know why. And then eventually it started coming out. And so along the way, my sister started developing issues and complexes because her dad was abusive sexually. He abused me and my sister. He was a whore. I'll just call it what it is. He had like 20 kids by a bunch of different women. Only married to one of the women that he had 2 kids with. All the other kids were older and some were younger. But he just was a whore. He was a horrible person. And he was a horrible professional person. I'll say that. He had a double life. But she married this man in spite of knowing all this stuff. And my sister my sister and my dad, well, our whole family were impacted by her lie. And so my dad ended up having to pay child support for a child that was not his. My sister ended up not being able to spend time with her family because my mother was a liar. Her biological family hated my mom, so therefore they didn't fool with my sister. My 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 biological grandmother, my fraternal grandmother in my dad's family, my biological father's family, didn't want to fool with my sister because it wasn't their child, and then they know how she was conceived. Um, at the time I didn't know that, but later on I learned it, and so I understood. My mom's mom kept her dirty little secret because she didn't raise none of her kids. She had kids by somebody else's husband and she dumped them off on her dad. And so, she gave them away and left them, abandoned them. So that whole, you know, uh, idea of you can just do anything to kids, you just have sex and make kids and do whatever to them, like that is the most irresponsible thing that I've seen and heard in my life, where women just out here doing all sorts of willy-nilly stuff and having sex and unprotected sex with multiple men, and then you get pregnant and you're just gonna pick your baby a daddy, and then don't tell nobody the truth as if the truth not gonna come out. What is wrong with women? Y'all ladies, if you have done this, you are going to pay a heavy price. At the end of the day, your child is going to hate you because you are denying that child an opportunity to know who their real biological people are. You're denying them time. You're costing men money that they will never be able to get back. You're costing those men time when they take care of children that you've lied about. They're wasting time that they're never going to get back. And I know people are going to be like, well, it's a child. Look, yeah, it is a child. But if the mama is reckless, why do the men have to pay the price for it? It's not fair. And, when I was talking to my friend about this, she was just like, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, it is a big deal. And so I was explaining to her, like, we've had this conversation many times. And it's not like she does not know my story, my dad's story. My dad is 70 something years old. He's still bitter. That is something that you never get over. And society just acts like men are supposed to just act like that never happened. My dad paid child support for years. He had hardships for years. There were times he couldn't afford lights in his house. He had to live in his truck. He had to go through all sorts of hell, go back and forth to court. And then now that's not even the worst part. When my mom and stepdad finally did get a divorce, do you know that she had the audacity to try to put him up for child support again for my sister? So she was going to get double child support. And my stepdad had the audacity to go to my dad's business and tell him what my mom was doing and ask him, would he go to court on his behalf? That day, my daddy almost caught a charge of murder. He pulled a gun on him and told him if he ever came back to his business, he would kill him. Should have been killed him. That's what my daddy said. I mean, the audacity of people, the things that the lengths people will go through to cover up their dirt or to vindicate themselves is off the charts. And so, of course, my dad did not help him, but he called my mom. He was like, "Look, I don't have nothing to do with your business. You better keep him away from my shop, yada, yada, yada. I don't want nothing to do with whatever y'all did. I don't have nothing to do with it. Keep me out of it." And so to this day, he does not deal with my mom. To this day, the relationship is terrible. If we have family stuff, my mom always standing off in the corner, acting like she the poor, pitiful possum, the victim, when she did all the BS to cause this crazy dynamic in our family. My sister is almost 50. She's going to therapy. Today, her and my mom can't even get along because all the things that my mom has done to keep her alive, keep herself safe, are manifesting themselves in my sister with her children. And so now my sister has terrible relationships with her children. The disrespect that my mom showed everybody else, now my sister is having to deal with the repercussions of that. She doesn't have a relationship with her mom. In all the years she kept trying to get us together and, asking us to forgive. And so now she's at the point where she's starting to see, she wanted us together for her own purposes because she felt abandoned. She was like always like, I don't have a dad. I don't have my fraternal side of the family. They don't deal with me because of my mom. When I'm with my dad, when she's with, our dad, um, my biological dad, she doesn't feel like she belongs there. And it's because she knows the truth. But my dad has never treated her any differently than he's treated any other children. It's just that she knows and he knows, and they don't talk about it in front of me. And I've never said anything to my dad about it. He's never tried to mention the topic to me, and so I just stay out of it. But it's so uncomfortable for all of us, all because my mama decided to lie. because she wanted to cheat and sleep with two men and not have unprotected sex. This was in the 70s. Like, women have been doing this forever, but there's no excuse to be doing it now because there's birth control. There are morning and after pills. There are just, you could be abstinent and don't do nothing. Um, but I just don't understand how these women are out here lying on these men still, just being nasty and whorish and sleeping around, and then just thinking they're never going to have to answer or pay for their sins. There's a reason why we are supposed to be married and not have sex outside of wedlock. And this is, one of the primary reasons, because it just causes too much confusion, and that's not what the Most High wants for us. The other thing is, let's talk about inheritance. So, my dad has wealth that he has plans to pass down to us. Is my sister entitled to that because she's not his biological child? I don't have any issues. I don't have a dog in the fight because it ain't my stuff. But I don't know how my dad feels about that. And he hasn't said anything to me about that. And I don't have any plans to ask him, although I understand that he would never do anything to cut my sister out of the family. It's just the principle of that even being a consideration because somebody told a lie, because somebody was irresponsible, because somebody decided to cover their own butt instead of accepting responsibility for their reckless behaviors and lies. The same with these children. These children grow up and they are not treated the same. You can't force family members to accept the lie. Maybe the daddy wants to accept the lie, but that don't mean grandma got to accept the lie. It does not. I've had a situation where, one of my grandchildren, I question. I can see the resemblance in all of them, except for one. And I was like, I said to my son, I don't know about this one. and my youngest son was like, mm. So we have these conversations, but because my son says this is my child, I don't have eyes to see and examine. I'm like, wait a minute now, who's this? Just I don't see anything. And I know people are like, well, maybe it looks like the mama side of the family. Maybe so, but that's all the more reason that I would like to verify for sure. I don't see any resemblance of me or my family. I need to know. I wasn't there. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. It's not like you were a part of our family. Y'all was slipping and tipping and dipping and, but anyway, at the end of the day, it's just another reason to, for men to abstain from having sex outside of the confines of marriage. I know people have unprotected sex, and I know people have casual sex. I'm not really talking about that because I know what that comes with. I just want to talk about doing things Yah's way. And so when we have sex outside of marriage, we have situations like this. And I don't think it's fair that women have the ability to lie about who their baby daddies are. I think paternity tests should be mandatory. I think before men leave the hospital, they need to be getting blood tests. I don't think you should put your name on a birth certificate unless you know for sure, married or not, because people lie. My mama lied. Women lie. Mama's baby, papa's maybe. Period. There is no way you're going to convince me otherwise. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've lived it. I know how much damage it causes. I know how much time, money, and energy you spend raising other people's children because you believe it is your blood and you want to love it and do right by it, but when it turns out it's not the truth, it hurts everybody, all because two people wanted to lie. And sometimes the men don't even have nothing to do with it. um Sometimes it's just the woman engaging in the lie herself. But I've known people who cheated on their husbands, got pregnant, and you see the baby, and the baby looked just like the man they cheated with. And I'm like, oh my God, this man can't see. The men just stay and take care of the child. And I just be thinking, what in the world must that man be going through? Because I've seen it. It cannot be a good feeling when the whole world can look at this child and see that ain't your baby. But it's honorable that the man would take care of the child because it's the right thing to do. But I still don't believe that it is fair to anybody, not the fraternal grandparents, not the maternal grandparents. Well, the maternal grandparents, it don't matter because if it came from the woman's family gonna accept it regardless of who it belongs to. But for the fraternal families, it is very traumatic. For siblings, it's very traumatic. It is disrespectful to all involved. And so, for the women who think it is okay to lie about your baby daddy, that ain't cool. For you to hide that secret and try to pawn them kids off on grandmamas, fraternal grandparents, because you don't want to spill the tea on your behavior, or um, maybe you want a different family for your child. That's not right. It's not fair. It's not fair to any of us. Um, for you mamas who lie and, you know, force fraternity on somebody else and you have other children, it's embarrassing. And instead of you accepting responsibility for your behavior, what you do is hide the truth. And then years later, everybody got to find out you was out here in the street being trashy. We got to do better, sisters. We got to do better. But the first thing we got to do is stop hiding and protecting these nasty women who be out here making these babies and lying on these men. I do not condone that. I do not like that. I understand the harm that it causes. The men, the alleged fathers, I understand the problems it causes the children who are born from those types of situations. They experience lifelong issues, and then they miss out on years of building healthy relationships with family members, time that they could have spent at family gatherings. Family members could have been participating in their upbringing, supporting them in different ways. They don't get that. And just because you pick a child's father doesn't mean that they're going to get that either. Because once people find out the truth, sometimes they're just like, that ain't mine. I ain't doing nothing. I'm doing as little as I got to do. For you men who out here just, you know, happy-go-lucky, believing these women and taking care of these kids and bringing them home to your mama, talking about this your grandbaby, y'all need to cut that foolishness out. Period. Get them babies tested before you introduce them to your family. Being a grandma, I would appreciate that because I want to take care of my blood. Now, again, if my son marries somebody that has kids already and I know those kids um, existed in a he relationship, that's totally different. I'm going to treat those children just like they're my grandchildren. But when you tell me this my blood, and then come to find out it ain't my blood, that's a problem for me. I got a problem for my son with my son, and I got a problem with baby mama. Like, what's happening here? So let us stop condoning this type of behavior. We need to call out these women who do this. If you trifling, let's call out trifling women. Stop being nasty and sleeping around with bunches of men and then uh, expecting sympathy. There's nothing sympathetic because this is a a situation that could have been prevented. Let us um, not act casual about the fact that women lie about fraternity, because it ruins a lot of folks' lives. It's time and money you cannot get back. And I don't believe women should have that much power because they want to hide their illicit behavior or their irresponsible behavior. It just ain't right. So you are not the father and being quiet about it. We need to stop. I'm not condoning it. I'm not standing up for it. And this is not about men versus women. This is about right versus wrong. This is about family ties. It is about, um, passing down generational wealth and inheritance, knowing who your family is, knowing about your family's DNA and genealogy. There may be things that are wrong with your child that you don't know about because you lied about who the child's father is. So health issues, pre-existing health conditions that your child may need to know about, they don't know because you lied about who the baby daddy was. It's trifling. It's trifling. It's time out for this. It's time out for lying. It's time out for fooling around like this. It's time out for just being nasty. Ain't that much sex in the world. Ain't that good to be out here ruining up no kids' lives. And what makes you women so good that you feel as though you should escape uh, punishment for your behavior? Your child has to be punished because you were irresponsible. Grandmamas, fraternal grandmamas are punished because you're irresponsible. Even the maternal family is punished because they have to be humiliated because the community knows these women lie about these children's daddies. And when it finally comes out, say these men go out and get these DNA tests, or grandma get the baby mouth swabbed or whatever, and they learn that this child belongs to somebody else, that's humiliating. To suspect it is one thing, but then to find out the truth, and then you have to decide whether am I going to tell or am I not going to tell? Am I going to break the news to my family and destroy it? Like, that's too much. It's just too much. It can all be avoided if y'all men start getting paternity tests before y'all leave the hospital. Get that baby mouth swab. Especially if you know that you're not the only person dealing with this woman. Period. It's just makes sense to me. I know a lot of women are going to disagree, but that's because they're emotional and probably because they have not lived this experience of dealing with children born outside of relationships where cheating is the culprit, and you got to try to figure out who the baby daddy is. Or, you haven't grown up in a household where a child was lied to about who their father was. Um, it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling for the siblings. It's not a good feeling for the men. It's just not a good feeling. And especially when the law requires that men take care of those children when they're married to the women. It's not fair. It's not fair. A whole man who is a parent and made this baby gets off scot-free, while the father who didn't have nothing to do with it got to take care of a child that wasn't even his. It's not right. And those laws need to be changed. So I just wanted to share that our people need to do a better job of calling out these trifling women who lie about these baby daddies. And these men, y'all need to be out here protecting y'all seed. Stop being foolish, running up in these women raw. And you need to get paternity tests, because grandmamas do not want to be taking care of no extra children. We raised our children. We don't want to be taking care of no whole bunch of children that you out here in the street making because you just felt like you couldn't control your seed. You wanted to have unprotected sex. I think that's very disrespectful to your mama and your daddy. Period. Do better, people. Do better, Black people. Do not let Rasputia get away with her trifling behavior. Call her out. Let's make blaming men for children that are not theirs unfashionable. It is no longer acceptable for women to be out here having sex with multiple men and not knowing who their baby daddy is. And we need to talk about it more. I'm glad laws are starting to change, and the courts are starting to recognize that men are being blamed for children that are not theirs, and men are literally having their lives wrecked because women are able to lie, because we got to believe all women all the time. Women lie. And we need to come to grips with that. I just don't understand women who support women who lie about fraternity. I just don't. And it makes me question a lot of these women out here. Y'all talk about men. Y'all just as rough as some of these men if you're gonna protect a woman because I don't even know how you rationalize or protect it. I don't know why, but I'm questioning women who are okay with this behavior. It's not right. It's not right. It is not right. All right, y'all. This is Marley K. Please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. If you do like this type of content, also consider following me on Rumble and Odyssey. The links are in the description. If you like this channel, consider supporting it. You can become a Patreon, or you can do a one-time donation. Links are in the description. I'm also on social media, although I do not post there regularly. Links to Instagram and Facebook are in the description as well. So it's just another lesson, y'all. We gotta get back to those laws, statutes, and commandments, and we gotta focus on healing so that we can be in healthy relationships and be married. And we gotta live the way that Yah told us to live. Anytime we live outside of the way the law, statutes, and commandments tell us to live, we always have problems. Always. We always gonna have problems. Disobedience and lawlessness breeds problems, not just for you, but for your family as well. So, with that said, get back into them books, read that Old Testament, because it's in there. If they're talking about human nature, it's in there. If it's talking about how we're supposed to live, men and women, marry, abstaining from sex, it's in there. So, again, I'm not condoning nothing that's wrong, and lying on who's the daddy of the baby is wrong. Let us stop condoning that, and let us talk about it more, so women will be shamed, and so that men will feel okay about questioning whether or not a child belongs to him. There have been enough lies told, and women are still lying and not doing any better, where men should be okay with getting a fraternity test, even if you got to go do it in secret. I condone it 100%. Because I know in the long run how it harms entire families. So ain't no need to protect these women, because they ain't trying to protect y'all. And I said what I said. All right, this is Marley K. Love y'all, and I'm out.